Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Hope you had a great holiday. Mine was spent reading books, watching movies, and rewatching Heated Rivalry an ungodly amount of times because that is how I wanted to welcome in the new year. Especially because, like I said in my last video of 2025, I do have some ideas slash topics I would like to explore from the show, top of which is the title of today's video. Because, yes, I will like to talk about the commodification of Shane Hollander. And to help me as I process my thoughts, I've split this video into broadly three parts. The first is an analysis of the ads themselves and what they say about the in universe's audience perception of Shane Hollander. The second part is going to look at things from the angle of Shane as a commodity, yes, but one whose commodification is tied to him being the face, the representation for the identities that he holds, which in turn then leads to the third part being focused on Yuna Hollander and why, although a large part of the audience were very displeased by how quickly she pivoted to brand talk after Shane's coming out to her, it is still tied to her job and how she views him from the two other angles. And I'm going to do all of this by working primarily with what we were given in season one, and I will try my damnedest to not reference anything from the second book that is primarily focused on Shane and Ilya, i.e., the long game. But if I do want to give mild spoilers to expatiate on the point I'm making, as always, I will be sure to give sufficient notice so you can skip or mute until the spoilery bits are done, although I doubt if I'm going to do that. So, with that said, get a drink, strap in, and let's chat about the commodification of Shane Hollander. Of course, before I get into all of that, I would like to say a big thank you to everyone who's been watching my videos, commenting on them, liking them, sharing it. You all encourage me to continue making these videos. And honestly, that support means the world to me. Also, a big thank you to my lovely Patreons and YouTube members whose support have been instrumental in helping me continue to make content, especially since I started doing this full time at the start of last year, which was the last time I was in paid employment. And a special shout out to Lena and Holly for their extra support. You get all the hearts and kisses too. Mwah. If you too would like to support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member to enjoy certain perks, even get a shout out, the link to do so is in the description bar. And with that said, let's come around to Shane and the first part of this video, which is about the subtle way the ads we see him in convey how he's meant to be interpreted and received, and to some extent commodified by the audience who's watching these ads. Because you see, I do not think that it is a coincidence that the first time we see Shane featured in an ad in the show was for the CCM ad shoot. This also happened in the books, mind you, for those who've not read them, which I will like to point out is the only ad in the show where Shane gets to be fully clothed. And there's a reason for that. Actually, the second, one of two ads, but it's meant to establish at this point of the story that the audience view him primarily in the context of the athlete and the hockey player. And so CCM, which offers hockey equipment, is the perfect first client for Shane. It is tied to the work he does. He's not made enough of a name for himself yet to be seen primarily as a commodity or a product to be pushed and wanted and thirsted over and after without any consideration for his agency outside of that. That would come later. And it's also why it makes sense that he's not alone in that ad and that the CCM executives agreed that Ilya should share that spotlight with him, because at this point they are both connected, just newly drafted hockey players who are about entering their rookie season and have a rivalry going that is tied to the sport. Now, that is not to say that Shane is not already being treated as a commodity at this point. He is, but not by the audience. Instead, he's being viewed as a product by the brand CCM itself. How? Because, like I said, at this point, he's newly drafted, about to enter his rookie season, which we know that both he and Ilya killed, which in turn would mean that what CCM as a brand would rather those who are watching these two generational talent tear up the rink in their first season keep in mind is that they are doing so whilst being branded by CCM. And they being the brand, get to enjoy all of that exposure at a much cheaper cost because they nabbed Shane Hollander and Ilya Rozanov at a much cheaper price. Because trust me, the amount they paid rookie Shane to have him in the ad cannot be compared to how much they would have had to pay two-time Stanley Cup winner Shane Hollander. I'm just saying. But like I said, Shane's ads in the show start with him being seen within the context of the sport he's skilled at and devoted his life to, and gradually devolves into him becoming just another body, something to exist, to serve the whims and desires and caprices of the masses, who all want a piece of him. In episode 2, we see him in the Monbray ad. He's now lost the hockey gear and is dressed up and all buttoned up in a suit. It's a subliminal way of communicating that Shane is someone who has gained success within the sport at this point to be seen outside of it. And also, because of the symbolism of that particular ad with him being watched by Ilya, who is working out and who prior to that has been sexting Shane due to their plans for them to hook up and have penetrative sex for the first time, we are meant to deduce that the scene and the ad in particular is a subtle way to communicate Ilya's desire to unravel Shane's put together persona. And then we get the Valencia Bogatera ad where Shane is no longer suited up. He's still dressed semi formally in a shirt and dress pants. The only thing is that the shirt has the top couple of buttons open up to show off a sliver of skin, indicating that at this point he's slowly becoming a sex symbol whereby the focus is not only on his prowess as an athlete or the successes gained from it, but rather the fact that the sport he's so proficient at has given him the body that the audience is thirsting after, which we know is a meta commentary on how celebrities, whether they be actors or athletes, are increasingly seen by the audience as bodies that they can covet and have sexual thoughts and desires towards, even though they are not touchable. And this is taken further with the orange cream ginger ale ad, or is it soda? I'm not sure if that particular orange cream brand exists like CCM, which is an actual brand, or if anyone confirm? Because I think it's a brand of ginger ale, which would work because it seeks to commodify both Shane himself and his drink of choice. The only bit of allowance that he gives to himself within his macrobiotic diet. Like that could be a soda drink, but I think it works best if it's ginger ale, because then it speaks to the fact that even the things that Shane considers private, the little bits of joy that he allows himself amidst his athletic conditioning restrictive diet, is something that is still put up for sale just like he is. Because it's not a coincidence that still following through on the trajectory of Shane slowly being sexualized as the ads go further. The orange cream ad has him in a wet t-shirt, nipples visible, with the hint of the musculature is built by virtue of his rigorous training and the conditioning of his body, all on full display to be pursued and viewed and enjoyed by the audience who may be viewing the ad and might be inclined to purchase the product as a result. And then we have the creme de la creme, where Shane is stripped down to his underwear, the only thing he has on, and is quite visibly advertising said underwear with his bulge out for everyone to see. Now, we can, as the viewers of the show, see Shane's increasing discomfort in those ads. It makes perfect sense that he's most at ease at the very start of it all with the CCM ad, where he has the company of Ilya and is situated within the space that he's most comfortable in, where he's at his most professional, to how he slowly is not the most comfortable, which we get to see when the cameras are off, even though he has to project a bit of confidence when the cameras are on him because he's selling stuff. Now, let me know if I'm at this point reading too much into things, because as you all can tell, I do love the analyzing part of enjoying art. And yes, romance stories do fall within that for me because, like I said, a lot of them do have layers, even if it's not immediately obvious, because society doesn't like to treat romance stories as serious. But let me know if you agree with or disagree with this thought of mine. But I have something else at another thought at the back of my mind about the symbolism of the fact that the more Shane continues to lose his clothing outwardly to be marketed as a sex symbol to the fans and those who follow the sport he plays, the deeper into the closet he has to go by virtue of the fact that due to how the cis heteropatriarchy works, it needs to be more appealing to a wider range of audience who are brought in that way by virtue of the fact that he has to hide the parts of him which is quite the interesting contrast of him losing his clothes as a result to be able to hide. Just a food for thought. Humor me and let me know what you think about that. But of course, this is where I would like to move on to the second part of this video, which is the commodification of Shane Hollander as it pertains to his racial identity and how that then holds up to become something that brands and corporations get to hold up and use by turning him, Shane, into their token. Because just as with the fact that Shane, through the ads, becomes the sex symbol, who isn't seen within the context of the sport he's dedicated his entire life to the point of being one of the greats of his generation. But more with the stripping that he has to undergo, something that the consumer can latch onto and thirst about. The same can be said with regards to how these corporations treat him, how he is perceived. Not as Shane Hollander, the person, the son, the lover, but as Shane Hollander, the face for Asian Canadian athletes and other athletes of color within the sport. He can't just be himself. He needs to constantly remind himself that he's the face for the other young athletes like him who look up to him and his achievements as one of the best hockey players alive who isn't white. It's why Yuna has to probe it into him that he cannot be seen outside without his Reeboks, because the partnership he has with the brand means that young kids of color who are interested in getting into the sports, who look up to him as their inspiration, would do so with Reebok in sight. It is why Rolex would make the request for Shane to show up at their box at Wimbledon, because, like Shane states, without him there, euphemistically, the box would be read as being too tennis, but what the brand actually means is that they would be read as being too white. He's the diversity point. And the thing about being the face of a brand is that they can call on you to boost and improve the optics of things, especially with the amount that Rolex is most likely paying Shane. They aren't just paying him to simply use him in their ads, they are also paying to hold him up as a token whenever they will it, because, say it with me now, the commodification of Shane Hollander. But whilst the brand gets to profit off of it, it doesn't mean that it's not serving a dual purpose. Because, yes, young kids would get to see Shane, who looks just like them, up on billboards wearing these items, able to do so by virtue of his success as a hockey player. But it also means that they get to see Shane, someone who looks just like them, successful as hell at what he does and enjoying the fame and wealth that comes with that, which then means that these kids will not let the doubters and the naysayers who might consider them inadequate in some way by virtue of their race, they wouldn't let people like that and their opinions keep them from chasing their goals and achieving it. Because, hey, if Shane Hollander can do it, so can they. And that is where we come to the Yuna Hollander part of the video, because I know people's response to Yuna immediately switching over to her momager persona has not been kind, because a lot of people immediately read that as, I don't know, Yuna maybe not caring for her son and only being about the money, which I honestly do believe is not a very fair judgment that is being passed on her. Like, sure, Yuna has handled Shane's career, particularly as it pertains to the brand deals that she's secured for him, in quite the exacting manner. Most of the time, our view of her as being centered around her pushing Shane's brand deals in some way into the conversations that she has with him. So there is quite the earned perception of her being all about Shane securing the bag. I think that that was done purposefully. What I would like to point out, though, is that she's not just all about Shane securing the bag. And also, the part where she is about the money, she's not wrong in that either. A lot of athletes have found themselves poor after their run is done because of mismanagement and not being able to seize brand deals and investments when they pop up in a way that is beneficial to them. Yuna Hollander doesn't want that for her child. And with Shane's outing, we get a further insight into why she's doing all of this. Yuna push for her son to be the face of so many brands is all done for the sake of Shane being able to mold and shape and determine just how he is viewed and perceived by the rest of the world. Advertising works both ways. The fact that he gets to make a shit ton of money in the process is the icing on the already fantastic cake for Yuna. I mean, let us be real. The first time the GN of the Metros got my brain keeps wanting to call them Voyagers from the books. Ugh. But anyway, the first time Shane and his parents meet the Metro's GM, is talking all about the team's excitement to take him in and how they don't care about his Asian Canadian heritage, except him needing to bring it up proves that they do care and that they intend to milk that bit of representation that they've brought on board. That was Shane's first interaction after his draft with Yuna present. And I just read it as Yuna in that moment deciding that if her son is already going to be treated as a product by those who come in contact with him within the sport, which is unfortunately the life of most athletes, then she's going to make damn sure that Shane is able to benefit from being the product, whereby, yes, he's being used, but he's also using that as an avenue to get what he wants. And in this case, it is the money that comes with all the brand deals and the chance to be an inspiration to younger people like him who look up to him. Now, if we apply that to Shane's coming out, I read that as Yuna once again realizing that they get to kill two birds with one stone, like they've always done as it pertains to Shane's career. The brands get to profit off of Shane, and he gets to mold and shape the perception that the audience would have of him now that he's out to them. He once again becomes the face and inspiration for younger people who might be interested in the sport and have stayed away from it by virtue of how homophobic the league is, whilst at the same time he gets to make some good money through it. That is what Yuna is thinking. I know that a lot of us are of the same mind that rainbow capitalism is the pit. It sucks. Seeing brands do the performative BS on the 1st of June irritates the lot of us because we know a large number of them don't really care. But at the same time, the rise of fascism has also meant that these brands have gotten even more conservative. And whilst majority of us couldn't stand what was clearly them profiting off of our identities, when Pride Month came around, I think we can all collectively agree that seeing that not happen on the scale it usually does last year and how homophobes harped on it kind of stung a little. Like they want us to be less visible in places where we should be able to take up space. To me, that was basically what Yuna was pushing for and offering Shane's face to that end. Shane, and by extension, others like him, gets to take up space. Of course, we know that Shane doesn't want that. And I'd like to point out that the minute her son shut down that request because he didn't want to commodify his identity as a gay man or his relationship with Ilya in turn, Yuna was okay with that and didn't bring it up again. I don't know. I felt the need to mention her role in this because we cannot talk about the commodification of Shane without bringing up Yuna. And I just felt the need to bring it to everyone's notice that she did so in order to secure her son financially, which is needed after all. How else can he be Mr. Businessman? Mr. Landlord, Mr. Real Estate. Without the money he's made, thanks to his mother's strategic thinking and all the sponsorships she's pushed his way, how else would he have been able to build the cottage? Like Yuna's helped with that. Like I said, she did so in order to secure her son financially, in order to help shape his image as someone to be admired and looked up to, someone who represents his community in a way that he becomes an inspiration. And I don't know about you, but it just has me giving her some grace in that scene. Even as I cheered that Shane finally joined the line on what he's not willing to turn into a product. And that is something to applaud him for as well. But of course, these are just my thoughts. I would, as always, love to hear yours. Whether or not you agree with them, please share them in the comments. Like this video, however, if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet, but enjoyed anything of what I had to say. Share it so others can find my channel as well, or you can check out my gaming or ASMR channels. I promise I will do better by them this year. If they sound like something you might possibly be interested in, I have them both linked in the description bar. I'll see you tomorrow with a new video. Until then, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.